Bonjour tout le monde. Je tiens à faire une courte mise à jour économique. On compte aujourd'hui 980 000 Canadiens et Canadiennes de plus sur le marché du travail qu'avant la pandémie. Et le FMI, comme l'OCDE, prévoit qu'en moyenne, le Canada va enregistrer la croissance économique la plus forte du G7 au cours de cette année et de l'an prochain. DBRS Morningstar a également réaffirmé notre cote de crédit AAA plus tôt ce mois-ci. Cela dit, je sais que les taux d'intérêt élevés pèsent particulièrement lourd sur les épaules des Canadiennes et Canadiens. C'est pourquoi notre gouvernement fait tout ce qu'il peut pour que le Canada puisse finir de traverser cette période difficile et se concentrer à bâtir une économie avec des prix stables, une croissance forte et constante et des emplois abondants et bien rémunérés. En tant que ministre des Finances, c'est ma priorité absolue et c'est la priorité absolue de notre gouvernement. As we enter the fall, that is why our government is working with our country's largest grocers to stabilize prices and take immediate action to enhance competition across the economy with a focus on the grocery sector. We are removing the GST on the construction of new apartment buildings to help get more homes built faster. And we're supporting our small businesses, including by extending the CEBA term loan repayment deadline by 1 year. We will be taking further concrete action on these very important measures very soon. With children across the country back at school, I'd also like to note that the next payments of the Canada Child Benefit will land in the bank accounts of Canadian families tomorrow. These payments are indexed to inflation, and this year, families can receive up to $7,437 per child under 6, an increase of $440 from last year. Over the past 7 years, the Canada Child Benefit has helped lift 435,000 children out of poverty, and it provides real, meaningful support to middle-class families every single month. Et je suis prête à répondre à vos questions.
Qu'est-ce que vous dites aux gens qui ont peur de voir le taux directeur augmenter à nouveau parce que les plus récents chiffres de l'inflation montrent qu'elle a augmenté encore?
Je pense que c'est important de réaffirmer, affirmer l'indépendance du Banque du Canada. C'est le banque qui décide le taux directeur et notre gouvernement, en contraste avec l'opposition conservateur, comprend l'importance essentielle d'indépendance de notre banque centrale. Cette indépendance est une fondation de notre économie. C'est une fondation de notre cote de crédit AAA.
Is Canada rethinking its relationship with India in light of the intelligence the Prime Minister shared yesterday?
The Prime Minister made a very serious and significant statement in the House of Commons. He chose his words very carefully. As the Prime Minister said yesterday, his statement was about the rule of law in Canada and the safety and security of Canadians, and I don't have anything to add to that.
So you're not going to do anything else when it comes to India after you expelled the diplomat? No other measures coming down the pipeline?
Let me just be really clear. This was a serious and very intentional and deliberate statement by the Prime Minister. He spoke in the House of Commons because that was appropriate. As the Prime Minister said very clearly yesterday, this is about the rule of law in Canada and the safety and security of every single Canadian. That's what our government is focused on. That's what the Prime Minister is focused on.
Est-ce que vous prenez une partie de la responsabilité pour l'inflation de 4 % qu'on annonce aujourd'hui? Est-ce que votre gouvernement se sent en partie responsable de ce taux d'inflation élevé?
Notre gouvernement comprend absolument que notre gouvernement comprend que le coût de la vie est difficile pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes et c'est pourquoi nous sommes là pour faire tout ce dans nos pouvoirs pour aider les Canadiens. C'est pourquoi on a eu une rencontre avec les PDG des épiceries hier. C'est pourquoi on a créé pour la première fois un programme national des garderies de petite enfance et ça aide beaucoup avec la pénurie de main-d'œuvre. Et c'est pourquoi on aide les Canadiens les plus vulnérables. Et c'est pourquoi c'est important pour nous, comme j'ai juste dit, de préserver notre cote de crédit triple A et d'avoir une politique économique responsable. Merci beaucoup.
Clarify for us what actually the expectation is of the government. Is it, as the Prime Minister says, that prices will stabilize and then lower?
Well, it's very clear. No, it's very clear. There's no...
It's not clear.
No, it is. But it's very clear. What we said is that yesterday we had a meeting with the 5 largest grocers, which represent about 80% of the sector in Canada. And what we've asked is for them to take meaningful action to stabilize prices of grocery in Canada. And they have to come back with plans that we're going to be looking at and that we're going to be able to report back to Canadian because we want that to be as transparent as possible.
But the Prime Minister says they'll be lowered.
Well,
will they lower?
The objective is to stabilize prices in Canada because what we've seen over time is the delta between general inflation and food price inflation has been dislocated. So what the mission we've been given is let's stabilize prices in Canada and let's have them take meaningful action. Now, that being said, obviously what we want is competition. I've given them an objective, but if you'd been in the room, you would have seen that each and every one of them will try to outcompete the other because it's not about the government of Canada. It's not about me or the Prime Minister. It's about millions of consumers. So now, since they understood what is being asked of them, they're going to compete with each other to provide the best possible deal to Canadians.
When will prices stabilize?
Exactly the definition of is it stop rising completely, going up by 1%?
It's well understood when you're talking about stabilizing prices in the sense that you want prices to be in line with what you see in terms of general inflation. What you had over time, you have a dislocation. If you look, and it's not unique to Canada, by the way. Let's be clear to Canadians. That happened in France, that happened in the United Kingdom, that happened in Europe. But what you want to see is for price to stabilize and that we don't see that kind of inflation that we have all seen when we go to the groceries on Saturdays.
Just to clarify, though, what you just said to Alex. No, you haven't, though. This is what's so confusing. You just said to Alex, as we understand, that you don't want prices to fully flatline. You just want them to only increase as much as the overall CPI. Can you please clarify?
Well, I think I was pretty clear, but I'll repeat. In English, you want?
Yeah.
Okay. But I speak French as well. I can do it in French.
Maybe I need to do it in high school, you know?
What I said is very clear. What we have said to them is to come back with plans that would take meaningful action. But that I'm trying to answer, but I'm looking there and at you at the same time, so that we take meaningful action for them to stabilize prices in Canada. And obviously our objective is that this will, their objective that we put there, that's the objective. Now, they will compete among each other now to bring the best possible deal to Canadians. So we have an objective, but what I would want is market forces so they can look at what they're going to do to compete. We gave them an objective, but we didn't have...
Not being clear.
I'm being very clear.
No, you're not.
I'm being clear.
One of the consequences they might face if they don't stabilize prices.
Well, I mean, the Prime Minister has been very clear. As everything is on the table to have them...
What's one example
Well, listen, the Prime Minister, when we were in London, has been very clear that everything is on the table. But now, what I say, what is important for Canadians to understand is that yesterday the tone has changed. For the first time in Canada's history that I'm told, Professor Charlois told me it's the first time in Canada's history that you have the 5 grocers in the same room. That's unique because this is not a regulated industry. So what we've achieved is to bring them in the same room, for them to accept the challenge and the very specific demand that we have put in them. We say, come back with plans, with meaningful action to stabilize prices in Canada.
Does
and that's what we
does
say.
stabilizing mean? Does
Well,
it
listen,
mean,
I've been answering 3 times.
No, but you haven't. Does stabilizing
But I think I've been answering to you. I've said that.
Does stabilizing mean prices only go up in line with
I've
overall
said
inflation?
to stabilize prices in Canada, and then they're going to compete with each other to bring the best possible. Well, that's my answer.
My question is, will the
That's
prices
my answer.
continue to go up?
That's
Monsieur
my
Champagne, pourquoi avoir décidé d'aller en 2 étapes? De d'abord rencontrer les épiciers, après ça les manufacturiers? Et pourquoi ne pas
écoutez,
inclure tout le monde dans
parce
la
qu'il faut
discussion?
il faut commencer à quelque part, parce que ce que je vous dirais là-dessus, il faut commencer à quelque part. L'idée derrière ça, c'est que moi, ce que j'ai exprimé, là, c'est assez simple. Hein? J'exprime la frustration de millions de Canadiens et Canadiennes qui vont à l'épicerie, qui disent, écoutez, on a tous vu, là, vous comme moi, comme les gens qui nous regardent, que là, l'inflation dans l'épicerie a augmenté d'une façon exponentielle. Alors, ce qu'on a dit, la première ligne qu'il faut aller, ceux à qui il faut mettre de la pression, puis je l'ai exprimé dans des termes on ne peut plus clairs aux grands manufacturiers. J'ai dit, écoutez, là, il faut stabiliser ça au Canada. Maintenant, je suis très conscient que c'est une chaîne d'approvisionnement qui est complexe. Donc, j'ai dit ce qu'on va faire, on va travailler pour faire la même chose avec les grands manufacturiers, les Nestlé de ce monde, les Unilever, les PepsiCo. Et en plus, ce que je leur ai dit, c'est que non seulement j'allais le faire avec les PDG canadiens, mais en plus, ce qu'on est capable de faire, si ça ne fonctionne pas, on va aller vers les conseils d'administration de ces sociétés-là à l'étranger. Et même, je suis prêt, j'ai déjà commencé à parler avec mes collègues en France, en Angleterre, je vais avoir mon collègue du Japon cette semaine. S'il faut une initiative du G7, de le faire ensemble pour avoir des résultats concrets, c'est ce qu'on va faire. Mais ce qui est
What is the timeline you have given them to implement these plans? You say
well, I want the plan by Thanksgiving.
And how much time?
Well, the plan's by Thanksgiving, and I would say shortly thereafter, because you have to understand, it's in their own best interest, because Canadians are watching and they want to see.
How fast, realistically, could these prices stabilize, as you say?
Well, I would say, if you were in the room, you would have seen that they're very eager to compete with each other.
Clearly, Canadians, how much? When do they expect prices to stabilize? By the end of this year?
I would say that we expect plans and them to take meaningful action.
What does that mean? What does that mean in terms of timeline? By the end of the
year? That's what I'm saying. Listen, they're going to put the plan by Thanksgiving, and we want meaningful action from there. But the plans will be there in action, and we're going to be able to report back on them to Canadians. You'll see me every day, and I'm happy to comment on that. Je vous entends pas.
Des stratégies de fixation de prix. Comment est-ce qu'on évite ce genre de piège-là?
Exactement. Vous l'avez bien compris, parce que ce qu'on fait, c'est qu'on leur donne un mandat très clair, mais on laisse la concurrence aller, parce que moi, ce que je pense qui va arriver, mais honnêtement, c'est que ces gens-là, ils se compétitionnent l'un l'autre, donc avec la concurrence qu'on va arriver, on va avoir le meilleur résultat possible pour les consommateurs canadiens. Merci.
Vous allez tolérer une inflation de 4 % pour les aliments, là.